deference to people who came on time. Which is plow ahead. So we can begin with calling the meeting together at 7:01. And let's do a call of the roll. Maybe Mary Ann, we can start with you and come around the page.
Sure. Mary Ann Weatherall present.
Jennifer Dial, present.
Tom Reardon, present.
David Farad, present.
Jenny Notchme present.
Great. All right. The Friends of Holly Hill. Do we have people here on that? Maybe they'll come. How about the Milliken baseball?
Yes,
Excellent.
present and accounted for.
All right.
Yeah, come up so
Oh,
they
sure, okay.
so they can get you on video here
Oh,
too.
okay.
Yes.
Oh,
We
I'm
can do
sure.
it fast.
Right.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Sarah McSweeney, 14 Summer Street, Cohasset.
Okay.
Just a quick summary for those who weren't in attendance. I think you were on Zoom with COVID. Last time we talked through the proposal for improvements for Milliken Field. A couple of open items and action items for myself and Michelle Leary. She has a conflict, so she's on standby if there's a question I can't answer, but she and I prepped earlier today, so I think I have everything up for the follow-ups, but I think she's in another meeting.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, Nick.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, I was like, oh, the building's on fire literally this morning at the dump.
Oh, yeah.
So she was busy, obviously very early, but nonetheless, a couple of open items that we took away from last one. One was, when we came asking for dollars for the, rebuild / renovation of the dugouts. One of you had said, hey, listen, you need to upload, there it is, a formal proposal into I see the portal, but you guys have an application process that it needs to go through. So there's a hard copy there on the desk, but it's also been uploaded into the town system, wherever the application resides. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So that was, and that's in line with the verbal estimate that we presented at the last meeting. The second quotation was for the fencing, that is also is part of the proposal, and that quotation has been reviewed and revalidated at the $10,425. So in total, with those two proposals, that brings us to the $50,000 request that we're coming forward with today. The last question that
I thought you were coming forward with 60,000.
Oh, yeah. So
I'm gonna
the-
cheat,
oh, yeah.
sorry, this is my night job. I gotta look and make sure I'm off my day job.
That's 50.
Yeah, sorry, so 50 plus 10, 425, 6425, thank you. And then the last piece, the other question that came up was, what is the ongoing run rate that's being contributed outside of town funds that's coming from boosters and other
Oh, yeah.
generous town contributors?
Yep.
And that figure is $15,000 per annum, and that we think will remain consistent. That's been the previous run rate for like the past 5 years. So we're anticipating that to be consistent on a go-forward bit, not up or down, but we're hoping to hold that contribution rate for ongoing.
And that's for maintenance.
That's for maintenance. One would argue that could be funded elsewhere, but in the spirit of partnership, we're gonna keep contributing that on a go-forward basis it's really primarily from boosters.
Yep.
So those were the three open items that we took away. Happy to answer questions or follow-ups.
I have a follow-up.
Yeah.
To it. So
Sure.
I was down at the field because I spent a lot of time at Milliken and I
Excellent.
walk back and forth.
Yeah.
And I was just curious, I just discovered this weekend there's like a bullpen in the woods almost, right?
Yes, there,
So what?
thank you for that. Yes, it is in the woods.
Yes, and so,
Yes,
and I thought when I first moved here it was an
Yeah.
abandoned field.
yeah.
And so I know it needs work and I'm so
Yeah.
glad that
Yeah.
someone's finally paying attention to it. What is, so this is like a great start, and
Yeah.
I was just curious,
Hmm.
are you planning to continue to, I know the bleachers and the and, I don't know
yeah.
if you guys are allowed to use the bathrooms on there, but I was just kind of curious in asking for this money as a start.
Yeah.
What do you see as the future of that? field?
Sure, yeah. I'll tell you what I think is, aspirational, and then I'll be more grounded in terms of what we think is realistic.
Yeah.
To answer your last question, we are able to use the bathrooms that will be opened up.
Good.
We'll work in collaboration with the soccer folks to say, hey, we'll have a key and we'll open it during
Oh.
during the games and obviously close it. So right now, currently, you are right, there's a batting cage that the parents put up so that the kids can work in there in the season. We take that down end of fall and that goes back up in the spring. And there are bullpens, they're on the perimeter. You know, I don't disagree that the town needs to do a better job of maintaining the perimeter weeding and overgrowing. And they're getting better at that. Michelle's working with the DPW folks to get that a little more under control. So kind of phase one is redo the bullpens, get them safe for our student athletes. This starts with safety and then we get to be around, what we think the aesthetic should look like, but those are in desperate need of repair because people, cut themselves on concrete. So those will start first. We'll put some fencing in again to make sure that spectators can come watch and that there's perimeter fencing for foul balls and all that good stuff. And then lastly, there'll be ongoing maintenance for the field, which also includes Beechwood. Let us not forget the fabulous Beechwood, which I know looks great with the new playground and basketball courts. That field needs less infrastructure investment, more just field care and maintenance. And that'll be part of the ongoing run rate. And that's kind of blocking and tackling for the next 12 to 24 months. After that, there's certainly discussion around what can we do to, we'd love to turf it, but that's back to my aspirational comment that we got a quotation for that. It was like $500,000 to turf. I mean, it's just, it's an expensive piece of material. And I think,
We can't pay for that.
no one can pay for that. I mean, nobody's paying, right, no one can do that. And I think also as they think about, and this is more of a question for Craig, as they think about what the next generation school system looks like, which will be, when my kids are long gone, what is that, what does Milliken look like? Because you don't want to put stuff down that they're gonna rip out if something else becomes a Milliken. So I think what we're doing to kind of answer the question is, it's not interim, those dugouts will stay, no matter what happens, whether someone makes a big donation to the town and they turf it, great, you'll keep those. So it's not, you don't have throwaway money right now. We just, as a taxpayer, I'm put my taxpayer out back on, we can't afford that.
Right.
Like everybody's fighting for dollars, so let's do something that has longevity. It keeps our student athletes safe. It also puts a good representation on for when visiting towns come, that we have a program that is appropriate and fit for purpose for student athletes in high school.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Other questions, comments?
I was just looking at it, like, is this recreation? Is it, I know it's bullpens and fencing, but is it really for, is it for someone that, like, is it a field or is it a track or it's not?
Well, it's a baseball field.
It's a baseball field.
Baseball field,
It's the area we're talking about is
Mhm.
exclusive for baseball for
Mhm.
Cohasset High School student athletes and also the age group of 12 to 14 when they're too young for Barnes, or aged out of Barnes and they're not in high school. So there is a 2 to 3 year period where they play on a bigger diamond and they can use that as well. So Ted Carroll can participate in that anytime he'd like.
How much
I think
percentage of the town?
bullpens are an integral part of any ball game.
Yeah, and the dugouts, and the dugouts.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, and the dugouts, yeah. They can use, so from March 15th to June 15th, the high school uses it 5 to 6 days a week. The high school junior varsity and varsity, they use it. Outside of that, Ted can run baseball camps, which we have the high school kids go and volunteer and give back and run clinics for the younger kids, and they can use that for that as well. He does Special Olympics down on Beechwood. Ted does it every year, which is awesome.
Well, we want to make sure the money's focused just on this. You mentioned Beechwood.
Yeah.
It's.
None of the asks that, the $60,000, $0 are going to Beechwood. That's just it's part of care and maintenance that I mention it because it's relevant for the town like that.
Mhm.
That's just ongoing. That's Michelle's money that's gonna pay for that. None of this dollars is going to Beechwood. It's exclusively for Milliken, primarily for the Cohasset High School student athletes.
CPC doesn't do maintenance.
Yep, I knew, yeah. So no maintenance here again, the proposal for the physical structures and the fencing.
Jenny?
Yeah, I think you've provided more answers. My point last time was, in all the discussion, those things should be in the grant in the first place.
Yeah, sorry.
And you've done a good job.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. We wanted to get, as we said last time, we want to come back quickly because we want to get ready for a special town meeting. I'm again doing it on my head, December 9th. Number 10? Am I close?
It's soon.
I don't have all the, it's early December, right?
It's December 9th.
Yeah, okay, so we want to catch that and get all the documentation in it and whatever closes tomorrow. I'm leaving that to Michelle just because she's She's knee deep in it.
It's pretty
David,
straight.
any,
I'll just say, same as the last time, I think it's a great project.
Thanks.
It upgrades
Excited.
the field and the usage of it greatly, and it brings us up to date just to a level of where we should be with other towns. It's not gonna
Yeah.
necessarily put us ahead, it's gonna get us sort of at the starting line where we should be with the other towns
Yeah.
regarding fields.
that's embarrassing.
Yes, it is.
It's really not
Yeah.
great, but I'm
No.
trying to be
It's
glass
right out
half
there,
full. It's,
too, during
it's-
the
yeah,
soccer, on
yeah,
the school
yeah,
there, and
yeah.
so
yeah.
it's like dangerous, and
Yeah.
like 3-year-olds trying to go in the dugouts on like a.
Oh, no,
Saturday.
it's cut up concrete. It's like, it's,
Yeah, it's
we're
bad.
really glad no one's had a different problem up there.
And the baseball program is in quite a tradition of capacity. I mean, it goes back all the way to the fifties.
That's right.
And before, Little League, even,
Little League.
Little League was even in the forties.
I was in the league.
There you
I love
go.
it.
I know.
We coach your grandkids. So if they're not good, blame it on Mr. McSweeney.
I remember Charlie Humphreys was one of the first ones on those teams back in the day. So anyway, I think it'll be a great addition. And it certainly fits the bill for them.
Yeah, we're excited.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, anything else you need from us?
I think it's very good.
Okay, I'll let Michelle know to tie, whatever she needs to tie up for documentation on her end, but other than that,
I think we're good. I think we'll vote by the end of the meeting.
okay, do you need me to stay or do you need me to
Nope.
disappear
I
and
think-
you can get back to business?
I think we've had adequate chance to pepper you with questions.
Excellent, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
No problem.
Was somebody planning to come from Holly Hill?
So, I thought it was Meredith. Can we still discuss it?
Sure, yeah, I just think it's, if they're coming.
Yeah.
We could do some other things first, like vote on that and approve minutes and give them a chance, but if they're not coming, we can get right into it.
Do you want to vote on the baseball? Deborah?
I was just waiting to see what Tracy had.
I'm just double checking to see if I heard anything back.
But they
So it's
haven't said.
Meredith Leban, Leban. I don't have any,
Why don't we talk about the baseball?
Okay.
And decide on the minutes, and then we'll see when they come, and then we can get into a discussion among ourselves, but I think it's better if they're here rather than to do it twice. All right, people want to comment on the baseball?
I think it's
I mean,
I think
Pretty
it's
straightforward.
Straightforward. I think it's great, especially because we put in such an investment and from the CPC too, right into Milliken, excuse me, Barnes.
We have in Milliken too over the
And
years.
Milliken,
yeah,
yeah.
we did the
There's been quite a
shack,
few, yeah.
you know. with
Right,
the
exactly,
circle
for
and-
the, what that they use for the soccer, so
And
I just think
fences
it's
and-
great to continue.
Sure.
And really, help, it's in need of help, so it's nice that they're finally doing something, I think that's great.
I hope I think it's a good start and I hope it inspires them to do more. At
Yes,
Milliken
I-
Field, because
But it's not a
It's
great
nice.
solution to the problems,
No.
but it's a lot better than nothing.
to
so-
start, right?
Mhm.
That was the field back in the day. It wasn't
Yeah.
until the first, Little League field, that was about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. It'd be great to bring it back up.
All right, so we're ready to vote. Does anybody want to make a
I
motion?
can make a motion for the Milliken, the Milliken Field baseball upgrades.
You do what then?
I'm sorry, well, that's a good question, to upgrade the dugouts and the fencing.
And we approve it at what level?
And I would, to approve it the full $60,000.
60, 40, 25.
60-40-25, is that the exact number?
Mhm.
Do we have
I
a
think
second?
it's 60, 40, 75.
What's this here?
She said
Uh,
it was
I thought you said it was
50,000, 50, and then
50
10,
plus 10.
or 20.
25, that makes it 64, 75. Unless the application says something different.
Well, it just,
Well, over here on construction, the EPD, it's 45.
yeah, because it just.
45.5.
But then this is just a dugout. And then she mentioned fencing for 10, 40, 10, 4, 2, 5.
Yeah,
So add those up.
think it's 6,475.
Yep.
Well. The total. With a fee or whatever this is 50,000. And $50.
Yeah, this one's 50.
And then the 10,000 and
420. It's 1025 is the fencing.
1025.
So it's 6,475.
Yeah.
64, can I say 6,500 to be safe?
Sure.
Just like-
Or it's actually 60,500.
It's
65,000.
Okay,
right, round it, 6,500.
16, all right,
Wait.
All right,
Not
that-
60.
65,000?
No,
Yeah.
60,500.
60,500, okay, perfect.
60 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna take 2 on the whole thing. I'm just gonna start again. I would like to make a motion, for us to approve the Milliken Fields upgrades for the fencing and the poles and the dugouts for $60,500.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call on this. Mary Ann?
Marion Keeney, yes.
Jennifer Dial, aye.
Ginny?
Ginny Notchme, yes.
David Frog Eye.
Tom Reardon, aye. So that's 5 to 0. Great. All right, do we want to jump to the minutes?
Sure.
We have minutes from the 23rd of September and the 7th of October. Take the 23rd first. Anyone like to make a motion?
September 23rd?
Yes.
Sure, I'll make a motion. I read them. Yeah, I'll make a
Great.
motion to approve the minutes from September 23rd.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can we do this just by voice vote?
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so be it. And for October 7th,
So I feel that I should have seen, I wasn't here on the
Oh,
7th,
yeah.
so,
you're not-
I mean, I trust you.
I approve I make a motion to approve the minutes from October 7th.
I'll second.
thank you, Jenny. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Nice job on those.
All right, I guess we start off on the Holly Hill.
I have a couple questions on this. Or,
Okay.
I don't know how I want to.
Well, I
first-
can, the deliberation, because this is just a preliminary, this is
Yeah.
calling for a vote anyway, they.
Just a discussion.
So,
Any questions?
Questions. First, I guess I just wanted to verify, did they,
Okay, let me look here.
did they
Um,
receive,
30, 2012. you
yeah, in
said,
two
right?
thousand twelve, did we purchase 34 acres for them? As a white family property? Because I saw that we did, and I also
Open space.
wrote about it in the manual, but then
Let me look here.
we weren't sure that was true, and I just wondered, is this an addition of their 5 acres of land, is this an addition? To the 34 acres that already exist?
Land
And
acquisition.
would it expand their footprint? I just wanted to know that.
Was, okay.
Do you want to read this?
Town provided funding to
There.
Cohasset Conservation Trust to
can see that.
purchase blah, blah, blah. And in the end, project canceled. That's the official CPA.
So it never
Oh,
happened.
Yeah.
But that was on the
Didn't do it.
database for this.
Yeah, but this is all taken right from the database.
When you
every-
clicked in the
everything.
link?
Yeah, yeah. And it tells what projects are completed, what projects were canceled. So this one
Oh, okay.
was canceled.
so this was canceled.
So then that maybe has to be updated.
So there was $100,000 that,
I think you have to click into it.
Oh,
It is updated on the CPA.
yeah,
Oh, so
yeah, it is.
Because they, every
that's
year
what I-
they send us like
Yeah.
a renewal, we gotta go through the whole thing and update every project. I wasn't here
Oh,
back
yeah.
then, but
so when you go onto the database, then I would click
if you
into
click
that?
on that, you'll see it'll say can't, not
Can't.
complete, or
Oh.
canceled, because it says canceled, yeah.
Okay.
why do you think it took me so long to do?
Okay. I was just thinking.
So it's a kind of a, and that was 100,000 they were asking back then.
Right, and then I wondered, I think it's an interesting project, I didn't know that they were selling the land. And, I guess I wanted to understand about the different, uses of the property. it seemed they have, I wanted to first find out about their funding, all about the different types of funding that are coming their way. If in addition, they receive money from us. But how is the town going to clearly benefit from the purchase of this land? Are they gonna, is it going to be fully public, like as an open space, or is it gonna be farmed and not public to be able to walk on?
Could I comment on, I would say in my experience, with crops, greenhouses, historic structures, residents, animals, and so forth, no, it would never be open all the time to the public. I mean, the way they stated it here was like the public could just wander up, like if you went
Right.
up to the woods or something, and just walked and so forth on the trails, that you could do that any time of day or night, but something like this would not be for security reasons, you just wouldn't have. And the small amount that would be, I mean, I'm looking at this map here, this is not 5.3 acres, I know this farm, so I'm assuming that they're buying some extra land for, I don't know what, that's my
Mhm.
question.
So I was wondering about the
It just sounds
34
like they want to
acres.
just
Mhm.
buy the whole piece, whereas they probably could buy 3 acres. And then let the whites sell the other 2 acres if they want, but you know, it's not gonna affect the farm at all. They'll
Mhm.
still have ample room to do their operations. So that was my main,
Mhm.
I think they just want to do the whole thing and call it open space, but in reality, only a portion of it would be in, you know, the security concerns. So
Right, I was just wondering, similar to how much percentage would be space
I would say
being narrowed it down?
if they had 3 acres, or
Mhm.
3 point whatever acres,
And
and then the other 2 acres maybe. Because this is not 3 acres here, for sure. Pretty sure that's not. So say they added a little bit onto this and they got 3 acres, and then the other 2 acres would be open space, which isn't a whole lot.
no,
And they might be better off just paying less for the land and let the whites sell the other 2 acres for housing. You know, it's not gonna affect the farm at all. I mean, it's a nice neighborhood,
right,
and that way they won't have to come up with so much money.
If we were interested, we could ask to have a tour of the land
Yeah.
and see exactly what
Yeah.
land is gonna be under what utilization, so that.
Yeah.
We could walk the place, I'm sure they'd be delighted to do that.
I remember that farm visiting there, and it's not. Even with the, you know, they have the greenhouses now, which used to be the hayfield.
okay,
And the whole area is, to my mind, is not 3 acres, but even if it were
Yeah.
3 acres, that's sufficient, really, for their
Right.
operations.
which leads to the next part of it, which was the historic, the barn.
Well,
Which-
back to the other one,
Mhm.
part of the open space, whatever we're gonna create, was gonna go under conservation restriction.
Oh, yes.
That was in the application, so.
That's what they'd like to do.
Yeah, so so you've got sort of open space, and then you've got the other part of it as well, but, so yeah, I think Tom said, go down there. and take a look, that would be helpful to see what's what, and then have a map out.
Yeah.
Figure the size, of how everything fits together.
Right, I agree with that.
I think if we were to
You would get
support
it.
purchase, we'd want a
Yeah.
conservation restriction on it, so I recognize they
Well, I think
often
that's-
do that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we would
But
insist on that.
You have to
the
insist
point
on
is, do they need all of that land?
Yeah.
If only a couple of
I get
acres
it.
are going to be open, really open space.
Yeah.
That's not a whole lot of land. My other question in my mind is, if we go ahead with this and fund or help with the purchase of the land in the first phase, I'd like to see a whole lot more detail on phase 2 to make sure that, you know, there's a real commitment to follow through on that. Because once they get through the first, but there's so much emphasis here on the farming side of it. And the organic farming and interpretation of that. To me, the real asset is the historic farm, actually. And that needs to be interpreted. That would be just a huge miss if they didn't do that. So let's have a little more detail
Sure.
on what that's gonna involve.
Mhm.
As you say, the barn. You know, how much work are they gonna do on that historic barn? It looks like they're gonna try to accommodate a whole bunch of functions in there that
Hmm.
aren't really maybe consistent with, you know, the original barn's use.
Wait, I think once you change the barn and modify,
Yeah.
how much of it is still historic?
And are there rules governing that if we have, you know, if people are funding historic preservation?
But that's, the big question is, what percentage of the barn will be historic after your renovation?
And
Yeah,
that's the big one in the
That's
middle,
the
right?
yeah, because they seem to be putting a lot of functions in there to do with the organic farming, the washing, you know, boots. And I'm not saying that it couldn't all be, and then they want another building for interpretation, which is fine, a little classroom or something like that.
But that wouldn't have, that's not.
But the barn, you know. I mean, you could so easily interpret that whole thing just with placards, with historic photos, with, you know, this was the hayfield.
Mhm.
And, you know, I mean, I even remember riding on the hayway and drawn by horses and think, this is just so foreign to kids today. And probably the original organic farming, if you want to, you know, if the farm went back to the 1600s, that's a huge asset to, you know, interpret. So anyway, that's my,
It strikes me that we have no role in the phase 3, building a new building.
right,
No,
no,
so-
we don't.
The number is also big for us. you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
$1 million.
for sure.
That was my concern.
Sure.
That's gonna, with the bond issue we already have. If we allocate $1 million to one project.
It's
That's,
missed.
yeah.
Mhm.
And even then, they've got to raise another 5 million for
Yes.
this, and I'm wondering where that's going to come.
So
Right.
that was my big, question about it was, that's a huge number. 6.5 million, so that's all it, I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
And so then, and they said 880,000 to date. And I'm just, I'm also curious from them, how long has it taken them to get to that
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
Because even after our million and this money, just to get to that 2.5 million number,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we also have a time limit on
Oh, yeah.
spending our
Right.
money, so then my question would be, what's like a realistic timeline? And like, how long are the Whites gonna wait to sell the property to them?
Mhm.
Like, is this sort of a locked deal that they're like, we can
I
wait
think-
forever, give you
I
money?
think they
Like,
said
what's
sounds
the-
like
December
they're anxious.
25.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Right, and so I'm just kind of wondering how long it would take them to even get the remainder of the 2.5 million. And then
And who is,
going from there, it just
Yeah.
seems like a big number.
that's why I think they really should be encouraged to just spend less and smaller parcel of land, sufficient to their needs. But
Okay.
forget about the other couple of acres.
We're trying to figure out to get them in here. Actually, as soon as we
Yeah,
can.
right.
Okay.
I'm disappointed that they're not here, but I was wondering about how many commitments do they have, real
Right,
commitments?
like for the,
Because
in the
it
880,
couldn't
in
find
that-
it once I saw it earlier, but
You
it
know,
seemed like they were.
people should be, you don't have to list private donors. But when we ask for, who is helping to fund, I want to see names, not of individuals, but organizations or whoever is giving the funding. And that gives us an idea of,
right. And also,
potential.
even without a name of a private donor, we already, we have it in hand versus maybe
Yes.
pledged money,
yeah,
just so we can kind of know like, well, you've actually got this cash versus it's a promise and they
I mean,
can fall through.
it encourages people to say, yes, we really expect matches, if at all possible. And to be precise about, who's giving and who else might be out there. If we know who is given, we might have, some suggestions where else they
I
could.
think Carolyn Coffey had suggested that they plan a fairly significant fundraising
Mhm.
effort. And I think part of these materials were prepared with
Yeah.
that in mind.
And it's a very nice
Yeah,
presentation.
how,
Yeah, there's
how
slides.
successful that will be, of course, is anybody's guess, but at least I think they're thinking of a broad canvas. And
So then if they don't succeed, or if they barely succeed with the first phase, I would be really, disappointed if they didn't really develop the historic. Because I think that would be as big a draw as the organic farm. or it would just enhance it so much. I'd like to see some guarantee that somebody's thinking about that.
So you would want an agreement with them that if we give for
Well-
phase one, then they must follow through with phase two.
Well, we've already given them money, so we really wouldn't be able to control it, but just some assurance from them that they thought this through and really see, because I don't see any evidence that they're really focused on the historic. They say that's phase two, but I don't see, you know,
Commit.
some what they have in
Well, they
mind, and is it feasible?
Yeah, the first part of their plan is definitely just buy the land. That's,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
first piece of the puzzle
Yeah.
that fits and
Mhm.
everything rolls off. And I think on the historic part that they, should definitely catch up with, two things in town, that would be the historical society and the historical commission. See what they got for,
You do have to. I
Yes.
approve.
and I know we've got one sitting here, but I mean, for the historical commission, but
Oh,
it would be, those would be two things to enhance maybe the project, because I don't know
Right.
how far they've got. They have a great pitch deck. I mean, it was.
It was
Yeah.
very
It
well
was-
done.
it was excellent.
But very little on
Yeah.
that end of
Yeah.
it.
right,
And,
but
you know, how much is it gonna cut? What exactly are you gonna do with the barn and who could give you an estimate? Is that gonna be another $1 million to renovate the barn? Could be.
Yeah.
It
could be. I think it's
Yeah.
very limited right now to do all the projects or
Yeah.
programming
Anyway.
that they expect to do it. So I'm surprised by that. And then also, I haven't heard anything about this publicly, so are these private commitments? I think once the town gets more involved or more aware of this, we would see much more action and support of this as well.
It's not unusual in a fundraising effort to try to get the board to put up and the people who are immediately involved.
Yeah.
A kind of nucleus that then you can go out and if they had a commitment from us and the commitment from the board that was in that range, I don't know if that's what the source is, but that would not be uncommon.
Right.
And then go to the general public.
Wouldn't it be nice if the whites kind of kicked in? Or maybe they already
I
have
know they-
compromised on the
Sounds like
price.
they've been doing it for a long time.
I mean, what do they ask you, 2 point something? for?
5.
2 or 5, but, which is for 5 acres of land on Jerusalem Road, that's not a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think
So
so.
I guess that'd be.
I mean, it's not a water,
Well, they said
5
it was,
acres is a lot.
Yeah.
they said it was a land-based assessment, so it sounded like it was a commercial firm was brought in
Yeah,
to evaluate the
Oh,
thing,
that's.
so.
Mhm.
But it's also 10 years old or something. I don't know the date of the.
Oh.
That
so
makes
it's
it-
10 years old.
that
They,
makes
they better keep it if it's 10 years old.
Yeah.
They're looking to buy it.
It could actually be a lot more.
Yeah,
I know.
That's
But I think they have an agreement
Surprised.
for what each
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
They do.
So the next steps would be, maybe they could come in and go address all our questions.
Right. We could get them in right after the first of the year.
I mean, but, this is not gonna go until spring anyway.
Exactly.
So,
Mhm.
All right, any other comments? Would you like to address the group at all? Can you tell us what your status is?
Status is limbo.
Okay, but the,
I'm a member of the Historic Commission. And we had a meeting on October 15th. And one of the agenda items was to appoint a Community Preservation Committee representative. And I got the appointment. However, Jackie, I believe, is in India. And I don't, and Jackie seemed to think just because she said I was appointed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it goes to the select board for appointment.
Yeah, it has to go
We'll
on
get
the-
it agenda.
You do, yeah.
I mentioned that.
I know, and I kind of saw, I thought so too, when I said, I think
I
so
had
of
to
that.
be appointed.
Huh?
I had to be to represent the housing authority.
Yeah, cause I thought to myself, I think it has to go to the select board, but I think Jackie's wrong, but,
I can put that on the agenda for the 19th,
okay.
which, because we're.
Because,
Our next meeting?
yeah, I was,
Actually,
I'm
the
sorry.
The
Huh?
sixth, the sixth.
The sixth?
We can
What,
put it on
the,
sixth. I can ask the chair.
Well, I didn't wanna come and do it myself, because I didn't think it was proper, and I thought she should, then I was gonna call the clerk and see if she could send it over. Because then I got thinking, I left several messages for Jackie, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, at the last meeting, she said her and her husband were going to India.
Oh, okay.
I don't know for how long.
We can say, I'll take care of it, make sure it's on the sixth
Sorry.
Okay.
of November, and I'll reach out to
Well,
you.
and I told him, I said, I'll come and sit, but I won't really
For the record, would you just give your name and address? So,
My name is Carol Bestick, and I live at 555 Beechwood Street. And some history. I used to work and do the payroll for Mrs. White. Back when
Oh.
she and her husband Richardson used to run the farm.
Oh,
A long time ago.
Back in the 50s, 40s and 50s.
No, it was in the 60s and 70s.
And we used to get our eggs.
I used to go, I used to go out there and she'd give me the hours and the stuff to figure the payroll for the guys and stuff. And then I'd get her this stuff and I said, okay, this is what you need to make the checks out for. And we'd go back and forth and everything else. And I used to go up to the house. I don't know if the house is still up there or not.
There's a
Wait,
house
is it in the back or the one on
Way
the
up,
street?
way in the
Oh,
back.
okay.
Way up.
The one on the street was
That
the
was the
the
caretaker's
caretakers.
house.
I had dinner there one night and it was a charm, one of my classmates.
Yeah,
lived there.
that was the caretaker's
And-
house.
To me, that would be a nice thing to interpret too, but I guess somebody's gonna be living there.
I was gonna ask that part of this out. I wonder what happens to it.
Actually, the main house was, you went past the barn and way up in there and it's kind of set up on a hill.
Yeah.
It was a
Right.
gorgeous house. I don't know if it's still there or if it's
I think
gone
it's
or,
still there too.
huh?
I think there's two houses in the back.
Is it?
It's
The
not
one in the
private.
front was the one that did their farm work and everything for them. That's
Yeah,
where he
Mr.
lived.
Gray was
Huh?
there. Mr. Gray was there when I was. a kid.
This was somebody else. I can't remember the name now. But anyway, he was there before.
It's
I
just
think we're
a-
digressing a bit.
I know.
Coming back, we have had on the agenda for several weeks, or several meetings, the video option and what we might or might not do on that. So does anybody want to pick that up and start a conversation about a video? I think you were,
Yeah, well, so after that, after our meeting in September.
Yeah.
Kevin then reached out to me and said, yeah, well, he has pictures and things from Beechwood. The recent projects, so Beechwood and the tennis courts.
Yep.
I think were the two that he had. And so he was trying to get a sense from us, exactly how we wanted to do it. So, do we do maybe a couple of different videos or a slideshow? Do we want to just, have a compilation of pictures? Do we want to have a little voiceover? Do we want to have maybe Tom standing there in front of Beechwood, giving a little spiel? We'd love that. So just, and how, and if we wanted to maybe have one that highlights projects, maybe one that then highlights, hey, you want a project? This is how to go about doing it. Or so it was sort of a, what do we want from this? Do we want multiple things, publicity,
Certainly
that
what our
sort of-
mission is.
would it, is it envisioned that this would go on the website?
I
Yeah.
think that, yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it would be linked, we could obviously put it on, town social media, however
Yeah.
that is, but then I think at the end, now that we have all that new information and everything up on the website, we'd have, like a link to the video and maybe, we update it every year or so with new projects or
project.
something like that, and give it a fresh.
In the Cohasset, the government channel on cable too.
Yeah.
Oh,
They can
yes,
run on a
yes.
loop. I mean, there's certainly enough empty space there to.
Yeah. They could just see you forever, Tom.
You know, you can be on a loop now.
Even the old
They can see your
projects
breakfast,
are
lunch and
still
dinner.
there.
That's
You
just
know,
it.
you can
And
go down and
so-
photograph the sailing club and the.
Right, and so that was the other thing, if
Yeah.
we wanted to do some of the new ones and then maybe some of the
Just
mix of
the
old
breadth-
ones.
Well, just to give people an idea of the breadth of
Yes.
projects that we.
And some of the
that
bigger
we-
ones, the smaller, and so, and obviously I've seen the list of different stuff, but obviously for a video or pictures, ones that are more, it's kind of hard to visually show archives, that sort of society, so things that are visually
We can add a
appealing.
video about the application process and what's necessary
Mhm.
and maybe explain what a really broad application is and what the difference is, what a full application is and why we're looking for it. Just to explain
Yeah,
that.
that's worth mentioning it.
Mhm.
That could certainly be something better on the website, because then we want to pull the application, the videos right there, the step through, how do you go through
Yeah.
it?
I think that would
Yeah.
be really good.
The one thing that ties into this, that I want to ask is about, in the past, I don't know if they did, they ever put a sign with on the project saying that, this is from CPC. this is-
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that, does that have to happen with every project or what?
Now going forward,
we
it's
asked, yeah.
definitely a commitment. You have to.
In fact, I brought it up to our board. I said, it's about time. And so it's my, oh, I forgot that. It's my job to find.
I was gonna say, is there like a sign or something that we? Or is it just whatever sign you want?
It's a black brass plaque usually.
Yeah.
About so big, and you put it in your building around.
We look at Sandy Beach.
Right, cause like I said,
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah.
know we had, you know,
I have a
something.
sign.
We don't have a
research.
stand.
I have a metal- I have a metal
And
sign.
it should also,
Do you?
it should, it should say that
Like,
it's
in my
every year
cemetery.
as well.
Oh,
I have
here.
70
So that would
70
be-
plates.
I have to find something, so
Oh,
send me.
I like the year idea, to add the year on it,
Yes.
the year of the project,
Well, we've had multiple projects, so we would say,
forever.
you know, that, well, that the generous through the years.
Yeah.
you know,
Right, but if
because
it's like a specific, like the, you know, the.
Oh, yeah, the sailing
Like on
club
at
or-
Beechwood, yeah, the
Sure.
Beechwood.
Because when people are about that, that's one of the best, things. Go walk their dog,
Sure.
using these different
Yeah.
facilities. And then they see it right there, because otherwise they just think it's just straight from the town, or it's just
Yep.
from the boosters, or
Yes.
whoever's doing whatever other nonprofit, and they have no idea
Mhm.
where it is.
Well, after each project too, they're supposed to talk it up and
Mhm.
send a press release or tell people about it as
But the
well.
sign is good, cause
Yeah,
it's
the sign's
perpetuity.
required
Yeah.
too now.
Forever.
I mean, the one at the Beechwood Ball Field, when they first redid that, with all the different donors that you see, the big one there, obviously.
That's a great.
But that's a great one, because as the years go by, you absolutely forget, it's just like,
Right.
But the names are somewhat familiar, aren't they? When you look
Yes.
at it,
Yes,
like, I
yeah, but
sort of
it's
know
nice,
that.
every time you go up there, you see them over and over.
But
Yeah.
for CPC, it's very helpful, I think, because as time goes by, people forget about the projects, and then they, it always comes up every year.
If they even.
What do you do?
Yeah, to get what you do,
Yeah.
should we keep it, should we, so we want to
Mhm.
make sure that it's front and center.
Yeah.
I think another reel would be good of just past projects, if we could maybe drive around town, or he could drive around
Yeah.
town and take.
Because there's some really
Look at
odd things people wouldn't
Mhm.
think of, like down up by the harbor, several projects to restore the John Smith, placard there, whatever it is, the
Yeah.
history
Mhm.
of town dog, or.
Especially the
The
older
lighthouse.
ones, yeah.
Right.
Some of the, like down at the harbor with they had to redo the sluice way, so just odd things that people would never think of.
Mhm.
Housing, yes, several.
I also think it'd be useful if we could have, rather than having one of us as the narrator, to have people who are recipients.
Oh,
talk
that's a
about
great
their
idea.
important role
That would
with
be good.
CPC, and it could be a
Yeah.
montage. so
That's a
you-
great idea.
Yeah, I like
Or a
that.
few interviews with
I like
them.
that a
Yeah.
lot.
Mhm.
So
What it meant, what it meant to get CPC funding as opposed to funding municipal funding or funding from the community. What was the difference? We finally reached our goal.
Well, it's a start.
I think it has more credibility coming from them than
Mhm.
for us. It sounds like
Yes.
it's kind of self-centered for us.
Right, well, and then it shows, you know,
Yeah.
you wanted this.
Yep.
But we do need to have whatever it is, needs to be scripted.
Oh, yes, yes.
Including,
Yeah.
carefully
Right.
scripted.
Oh, absolutely.
And one narrative that really has a kind of a professional voice, but including all these other people.
But the type of-
People
I mean,
have high
it's-
standards now.
As you know,
No,
all
it's
been on
true.
CPC, the type of work
We're trying
that
to
can
do a
get done.
video
It's so,
program
it's so
here.
top
I
notch.
know, but I'm
I mean,
just,
if some of these things have to go through just the regular town budget, you end up taking a tree and getting a pencil by the time you're through. Because it gets refined and refined and refined, and it goes through this board and that board and that board. So,
say that's Massachusetts.
and the same thing, like even on the one we just voted on tonight, the baseball field, I mean, if they came in for dugouts, fencing, all this stuff, they'll be lucky to get 2 sawhorses and a plywood to go sit and make a bench out of. So I think that I think that has to be highlighted, and so that people know that this is the kind of quality work that comes out. I mean, we were
That's
just
true.
at
Yeah.
the ribbon cutting there for the Beechwood,
Wasn't
The
that
playground.
wonderful?
and it was fantastic. It was
It was
Were
so
you there?
colorful.
everybody.
I didn't go to that one. I went
Oh,
to
no.
the,
It was mobbed. It was
Yeah.
absolutely
Absolutely
mobbed. It
mobbed.
was wonderful.
I went to the.
I was at Milliken.
Hill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But every piece of that, it wasn't just, just getting the money, but the execution of it, the town
was
dealing with the
beautiful.
contractors, everything came out fantastic.
And the fact that it was a community
Yeah.
initiative.
Yes, it was.
Not just from a town department.
Or it was 2 moms, a mom and a grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really,
And they were
like,
recognized.
really.
Mhm.
And
That
at
was
this,
a
at this
good one.
point, all the facilities there are kid approved. There was plenty of kids there
Oh.
to try it out and tell us if it was good or not, and they all loved
Yeah.
it. So, it worked out great.
I think that the basketball is absolutely
Yeah.
spectacular.
It is. It is.
The colors.
They had a bit of a runaround to start with, but I'm glad it came out really well in the end.
But how do we want to move this video idea?
Jen, why don't you, can you make an outline of what you have, with all these ideas?
Yeah, I mean, if
Can you
there,
do it?
if
Can you-
there,
Oh,
well, I was gonna say, if there are, projects through the years that you guys remember that you think are really worth us
Yeah.
finding.
Ginny has a,
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
you-
I just look at the list.
Yeah,
here
look
and
at the
see-
list, and I mean, I can look at the list
Representative.
too, but if there were things that that had stood out to you as stuff that you're like, oh, we should definitely.
Well, certainly from every branch that we find.
Right,
Yeah.
and so covering all the branches and then I think once we pick out a couple, and I don't think it should be a very long video.
No,
no,
You know,
no.
nice and short,
Yep.
tight, you know, no more than, I mean,
But there should be projects also that have wide appeal.
Exactly.
It's an esoteric thing, like,
yeah,
I think the digitizing collections in the historical society is probably not.
right, it's
You know, I
not.
think it's important and worthwhile, but I
what, you
think.
don't wanna feature our new move on the community film?
Well, here's one from 2012.
We can have everyone speak
be-
under the pergola.
I'm not sure if this actually went through, but the
What?
town clock, it says restore
No, it
faces.
didn't.
No, it didn't go through, when you click on it,
Okay.
also canceled, that was disappointing.
Okay, well, this is
'Cause
an
I wanted to
example
find
of
the
a
town
great
clock.
project that could have.
Well,
moved
they couldn't
forward.
find it. I talked to the town manager about it after we went, through. He said they could never find anyone qualified to do it.
There's a
Fix the
company
clock?
in Medfield that
There-
does it.
It's
It's
not, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
They are working on it right now, though. They have someone
Yeah.
else
He
working
said they were trying.
today
Oh.
fixing it.
Oh, really?
So it is gonna get
Oh.
fixed.
There's a company in Medfield that does those types of clocks.
Yeah.
There's a
It's
guy in
whole
Whitman.
business.
So they sent out an RFP, they only got one response, and it was way higher than they
Oh,
thought
yeah.
it would be. So that kind of was stopped to it a little bit.
oh.
And the woman from, I think it's Vermont, I think they're from Vermont, I'm not sure, like,
Uh-huh.
they said that they were the only ones around that restore it the way it should be.
Oh. They should.
Well, there's a guy in Whitman
As opposed to
who restored the
working.
Custom House Tower,
Works for
Oh, that, yeah, that's gorgeous.
and I think they did a whale of a job, but,
Pass their names along.
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
check
Swiss,
that
he's a
company.
Swiss guy.
Yeah.
I forget his name, it's like Hawk Shoulder or something,
Mhm.
but there, he does outside clocks.
Mhm.
Among other, he has a business that repairs clocks, but
Yeah.
he specializes in these kind of.
It's called the Electric Time Company.
I mean, there must be a few of these
Oh,
clocks in New
you-
England.
I know.
you-
Oh, yeah,
you
no,
know,
they
Pass
definitely,
them along.
Yeah.
Because
there's talk of a new RFP going on for it.
Yeah,
And the
'cause-
space is very,
they might
Yeah.
not know or be
Different
on the thing to
levels.
get the
Did
RFP.
they put,
Yeah.
Like
they-
they-
that's-
Oh,
Bring
right,
them
Right,
up.
you have to, don't you have to be on a
Yeah.
government contract?
Mhm.
It's
I'm
part
not
of
sure.
the
That's
list.
kind of
I don't know.
clear.
But-
Fran Collins is working. on it.
Does that have to be, they have to be on the government approved
Right.
list for that
Mhm.
RFP?
Yeah, I think we know.
That might be. the-
So a private company couldn't apply.
They
for-
can.
No, they can still apply, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
any
they
company has
knew
to
of
be
it.
insured,
If they knew
or
Right.
self-insured.
Right.
Well, yeah, it
Who
was
should this
advertised,
go
we
to?
only got the one.
I have
that
names.
was-
So, is it okay if he gives the name to you or you can get to
Okay, I
Chris?
can show you after that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, that,
Because I can tell
I got a
you,
claim check.
when we first got, we did get the CPC money, to do the windows at the old town hall back in 2008, 2009. The contractor that we had specialized in historic renovation, and he had done a number of the lighthouses on Martha's Vineyard. And a bunch of other different historical things, so he got it, they took out the windows, sent them to a shop in like Connecticut or something, then we did each one by one, they, sling one out, bring two back and do them, so, but those kind of people, it's a very short list that can do
Yes.
this kind of work, when you talk about the town clock or these
Yeah.
things.
I tell you, Tracy, I'll call him tomorrow and ask him whether he does that kind of thing, and if so, I'll forward the
Yeah.
name and whatnot.
Yeah.
He may have given up that facet of the business or whatever, so rather than waste your time.
Do we have a photographer? I mean, if we went through and everybody said,
Oh.
recommended 2 or 3 projects they thought were good for photographing.
Doesn't, the town usually hires Dan Larry?
Oh, I
He
don't
does
know.
it for
I
this.
have no
Well, I
idea.
mean, I would think if we were doing like a video, I would think we'd want. Instead of like photo, I mean, we could obviously have a couple of
You
photos,
want
but
some
we
video.
want it moving.
Yeah.
Like a video, and I
That
would
would be
assume
ideal.
Kevin probably
That's
is
his job.
sort of, yeah. I mean, I could, that's what I did to like technically do it, and the 143 people are actually kind enough to lend me a camera to take Carson's class in a couple of weeks. And I get it for a whole weekend, so I'll video everything.
But you,
Is
everybody
this
has a
okay
list
recording?
of all
Don't
the
watch this.
projects.
Did I get a stipend?
But I would imagine that, yeah, once we picked stuff and got information, Kevin could do it.
Mhm.
And then, what I could do is if you give me some of the projects, try and find the old applications. I mean, obviously, we could talk to like new people that are on it, but if there's somebody who's involved with it.
Here's
well,
some
we
more.
might still have- or somebody who's currently part of that group, you know,
But yeah, if everybody
we
went
could
through
figure it
this
out
list of all the
and
projects.
do everything
and
under the
Picked
pergola.
out, picked out a couple.
We restored the roof at the.
But that's a good
at the
start.
library. And,
But also
for the
something
town dock.
we could find. even if that was-
Oh, we
find.
removed graffiti and invasive vegetation on Erin River Reservoir Trail.
I mean, there's just all kinds of weird
Might be
things
still-
that would. Fun.
Yeah.
Well, like if we were
We
to
can
do
go back in
something
time.
for over the, the housing stuff, you could just do a couple of quick videos of literally, like the ones with the painting, just quick shots of a few
Yeah.
things, and then one person just saying, over the years, we've done this, this, and this, maybe if we had a number we could put on there, and then they talk about how just all of these projects have made a huge impact on the people who live there.
Well,
And
just preserving them.
right, preserving it
structures.
and what benefit, that's had, so even for something like that, you could do a couple quick ones, you would do 5 of those.
I mean, it's
just
just
10 seconds.
for people to realize that preserve a physical plant is absolutely essential.
Mhm.
And it's something that's not glamorous, but you have to keep attacking it every single year. Yeah.
All right, well, Jeff, thank you for doing that, that would be great. Any other business to come before us?
I have something.
Yes.
I was alerted that there was an error in the
Oh, right,
manual,
right.
and I wanted to bring it to your attention.
The new version.
It makes sense now.
Yeah,
Yes,
actually,
there's-
I read your email, I think that's
Okay,
better. the new
and now that we're talking about projects, I realized that the project of the White Family non-purchase is also in this manual, so I'm gonna go back through and just confirm that these projects did go through. or not. So I will update.
Yeah,
that
if
as
you
well.
look at the list that I did, it always has project in progress, project completed, or project not.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, well, I'm
just
just going to remove the White Family Farm off of this document.
It would be good to get it.
Mhm.
I tried to get on to the registry of deeds in Norfolk County. Thought I ordered something, it never came. But I mean, you could technically get on there and get information on the land, that farm.
Mhm.
Could you? I think you could,
Yes, you could get
So
all the
we
deeds,
would
and
know,
anything that's ever
you know.
happened to it.
what the acreage is and
Okay.
measurements
Mm-hmm.
and so. I tried,
that
so
Our
somebody else will
responsibility
have
to
to
do
try.
that?
I mean, just so that we would have a reference ourselves if we were gonna go over there and do a walk.
Right,
How
Well,
much-
we can
I like the
also,
field trip
also
idea.
ask them to bring that. I mean,
Cause
Yeah,
yeah,
them
they
do
can
the
come
hunt.
to the
Yes.
field.
right. I think that's their responsibility.
Yeah. I don't think we need a vote on these corrections. We're just making
No,
corrections
just
within what we had. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to have a vote, but I don't know that that's required at all.
I wasn't sure that
Yeah,
there was no mention of the procedure in the procedure that I wrote, so. To update
Okay.
this, so,
Because I don't think they're substantial, it's just clarification.
No,
You're
it's
you're not
clarifying
changing the
a
substance.
statement.
so
in it.
I mean,
it's
that-
no substantive change.
And it actually is when I read it.
I will,
was
I
like,
will
oh,
explain, I didn't explain it to you what it was, but I will just explain it to you, just so you.
Going
know.
back, we realized that the
The,
old
um,
statement didn't make any.
It was about the town meeting, everyone has to vote in the town meeting on these recommendations that we provide, and what I previously wrote was very unclear. And so now it shall read as some grants may pass town meeting with a simple majority vote, such as 50%. While other grants, particularly those involving borrowing money or buying land, require a higher threshold of at least a 2/3 majority vote to be approved. And it didn't.
Buying-
It was,
buying
I think it was
land.
missing, like, I think it was missing some word.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cause we, at town meeting, like all this cold medicine, it's clearly gone to my brain. You vote on each one separately, right? Each.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Mhm.
that's it. I was just,
And
and
usually
when
the
I was
money
reading
just
that,
goes
as you
through.
said it, I was like, yeah, you vote on each one, but I was
Oh,
having
One
a.
article.
Right.
But they-
separate.
But
When you go
separate
into
votes, that's right,
borrowing,
yes.
that's a bigger threshold.
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's what I thought it was. And I was
Mhm.
like, I need to
It's
double
in
check.
the warrant, each
Each way,
project.
right, but it's under
But when it's
one-
presented at town meeting, they just say, you know, oh, CPC, this total amount. And that's
And then we vote,
Mhm.
yeah.
which is unfortunate in a way, because it's nice for people to hear exactly what. funding.
Well, I'll make the revision and then I will send it to you to
Yeah,
send to Kevin. Is
Yeah,
that what it is?
yeah, and it'll be easier that way
Tracy
since I've been
Scouting.
working with him, so just send me both, because like the PDF
Are we
that you,
going-
you know,
alright,
so we can
yeah.
send it out, yeah, or we can
Okay.
take
Is
the
this
word
the
out
only
and
project on
and we'll just
for
replace it.
CPC, or did we have another one?
Yes, the memorial.
The memorial wall on this one is a bit different
Oh,
too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
The
right.
big spot fields, yeah.
Oh.
Mary Ann had some observations about that.
Well, yeah, well, we voted on the memorial wall, but I started to research it and,
You did
the
bring it up.
addition to the wall itself was built in 2016. So if you go back 50 years, that's really not a historic wall. And he's asking us to build a new wall abutting it. So I kind of thought now that it wasn't a historic project anymore. Even though it's recognizing historic data, the project itself is not historic and therefore we are not restoring historic.
And it's building a new part,
An
right?
addition that recognizes current veterans have passed.
And it's not attached to the old one?
Well, it's
Well,
the
and
same, yeah.
also,
Right, but
the
it's
current
not-
wall is not historic, it's
Oh, no,
not
but-
even 50 years
Oh,
old.
no, I know, I was just, because then that's creating, because you can't create history, right? And it
But
may
Mary Ann, what
affect-
about projects that we fund for archives? They're not historic projects either, but they're preserving historic materials.
About the park itself.
Is the
Is the park itself?
Well, no, the park itself is historic.
bench.
Is it?
Just leave
No.
Like,
It wasn't there.
but
Make it a
no,
bench.
but is it historic?
It used to be a donut shop run by the firemen.
Oh, down there? Well, the wall itself is not a historic property. It recognizes historic, but I understand what you say, but it recognizes
Wait,
historic
is that real?
data.
Because I love them.
But I didn't know, I started to think about, it's not like a historic school or a historic
No,
building
but I mean,
that you're.
if
The
we,
fire station. right
if we
next to
give money to preserve
That's a lot.
documents that aren't
Mhm.
themselves that old, and the process itself is not a historic process, I mean. In a sense, we're preserving, it is like preserving a document of.
They cook
I would say,
In a physical
when it comes, the difference is on the historic stuff, is it either has to be on the historic register. Or it has to be voted on by the historic commission that it's a place, or a thing of historical significance. And so they did get the vote, they did get the vote
You're talking about.
from the
Right.
historic commission saying that
You talking
Then
about?
that's-
it's either the place or the
The
wall
addition
is a place
on
of
the
historical
wall.
significance, so.
Oh.
So that's why
For us.
people try to wheel their way into historic and it's kind of,
Mhm.
they have to pass that threshold first. So then we're not stuck with bouncing it around, so then it gets to us.
Okay, I didn't know that area was deemed historic.
Well, I don't know if they voted on the wall or the area or the names, but
Something's historic.
they voted on it, that it was
Maybe.
it's
The park.
historically
The
significant.
park itself, because the park was never significant in.
Yeah.
You know, until they put up the memorials.
Mm.
It was just.
Well, it's
it was
just,
an old
in my
fire
mind,
station
going
there, actually.
forward, I like,
Yeah.
historic properties seem to be, in my mind, like
Mhm.
historic schoolhouses or the
Barns.
Osgood School that became a library, that seems like a historic building. And that kind of threw a curve into my thinking.
You have to wonder
That wall
about
wasn't.
libraries. I mean, I've often wondered about that.
Uh-huh.
How do libraries? Other than preserving historic documents, how do libraries
Have we
Are
supported
they-
libraries? Oh,
Yeah,
We redone the roofs.
yeah,
well, no, the roofs and the pavilion they want to build and,
Yeah.
I
you
think the
know,
pavilion was what open
Yeah.
space though.
Right, that crossed over, that was
Yeah,
different.
it was recreation.
but you
Right.
know, since the
It's not
wall was
historic.
there and it's the last piece of it.
No, we voted for it in. I was
Yeah.
just thinking back at it.
But you're right.
Just-
We could use some
wanted-
clarification on just what is eligible. Under these
Mhm.
different categories. a little more
Historic is
fine.
probably the trickiest.
Yes.
Yeah, but like, so the good news with that is that they have to cross the threshold to get there.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's true.
Because the historical commission, they come to them for the vote to say, is it historically significant? Then that's when they can get poked and prodded. I mean, we can poke and
Mhm.
prod them too, there's nothing wrong with it, but at least they have to get through that. Or it has to be on the historic register, yeah, yeah. And so there's already, because that is the problem with historic. You know, people could say, well, I've got
Right.
this thing and, you know,
Exactly.
Johnny Cash stayed here one night, and you know, does that make it historic? And it might not. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so you can get into that, that's where.
I think the library, going back to your one roof, yours was, it was an historic building. Because it was the school. So that- I mean, maybe it's stretching it now,
No, I,
but
you know, you're thinking back, it was the Ripley Road School. but-
Yeah.
How old is it?
it's.
It's been there a long
Since the
time.
thirties.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Even things from the fifties now are pushing historic,
Yes.
so, yeah.
Everything
So
50
maybe the
years
high
back,
school
it was-
qualifies, should we do
Right.
that under historic next?
Well, the farm, they clarified themselves as historic, they got
Well, if it goes,
recognized as a national historic.
yeah, it
site,
goes
I
back
think
to
it was.
60
Holly Hill.
1600s,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is
Mhm.
interesting. I mean, that makes it a, how many farms are there? You have to go all the way out to
It's 300.
western Massachusetts to get that
Mhm.
kind
I wanna say it's gotta be the last farm in Cohasset.
It is.
That's the-
That's what I claim.
And
They say
that's what
there are
claim
Yeah.
too.
I was
of,
trying
or
to,
3 in the, on the
right, like,
select
saying,
side.
anything else kicking around town, but I can't think of
Because
it.
like Weir River's very close, but it's Hingham.
That's right, yes, yeah.
I
They
think
have
it would be a
X.
wonderful asset. They could develop.
Well, where
That's
Cook
a-
Estates is was a farm when Oaks Farm.
Yeah, Oaks Farm,
Yeah. And
Clarence Barron, who had a
had
few
cows
others.
and they delivered milk.
Cool.
And,
Yeah,
But opposite the school.
it was sort of a hobby.
That was on that property. It
Yeah.
just
Okay.
further up. It was before the
You know
school.
where the houses are on the left and the hill on the right with the new houses as you top Sawyer Street.
Yeah,
Yes.
where
Oh,
it's all
yeah.
those estates down.
Oh,
Shit.
that was the farm up there.
But it
Where-
was almost kind of.
Where the
a
Fair
hobby.
Oaks is?
I did.
And then down where the music circus was, they had rings with horse shows.
Yep. That was all owned by the Bancrofts.
That you can find out in the cemetery.
Yes.
Which seems really neat.
All right.
It's really good.
Um,
I'll bring the brochure next,
yes, Jen,
next meeting.
Unless there's anything else.
No.
All right, I would like to make a motion to adjourn at this time.
here a second.
I second your motion.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Opposed? Toby, we're adjourned.